Innocent, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very
You and I
much.
have been we've been speaking for I don't know how long now. It's been what? It's hasn't been a year, has it?
Back and forth. Yeah, I think it's over a year now,
Crazy. Yeah. We've
right?
been speaking. Yeah, it's probably about a year.
Mhm.
Um, so for folks who don't know us, my name is Joe Kinvi. I'm one of the community managers at Diaspora House, and we are a real estate collective that invests in prime real estate across Africa and its diaspora. We acquired two properties last year in Kenya, and we're hoping to do more as the community is growing. We have a community of just under 500 people, and we've invested about $200,000. And part of what we want to do at Diaspora House is essentially speak to people like Innocent who are actually on the ground building, scaling across multiple assets, but specifically real estate, and learn from them how they're doing it, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And because I've been speaking to Innocent for a while, we actually wanted to do this session back in December, but we're both moving around, and we thought that we should do it sooner than later because there's just so much happening in East Africa and specifically Rwanda. So yeah, I invited Innocent to join us and tell us about Rwanda, but specifically what we're hoping to get to at the end of this session is the topic, which is Rwanda real estate worth it for the diaspora? The reason why we have Innocent is because he is, or I don't know if he is, a former diaspora, Sweden, and then moved back. But before I start butchering your introduction, Innocent, do you want to maybe just give us like a one-line introduction about yourself, what you do or what you did in in Sweden, and what brought you back to Rwanda?
Yes, sure. Thank you once again for having me. My name is Innocent Mugenga, as you know, Rwandan of origin, grew up in Sweden. I was actually born in Sweden. In Sweden, I've been in entrepreneurship, building different businesses in different industries for the past 15 years. And now, about 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago, I took the step to move to Rwanda to focus on Great, which is the company I'm building right now within real estate development. That's a quick, short introduction.
That's amazing. I think for me, the natural question is like, you've built a thriving career in tech in Sweden. I mean, you were born in Sweden.
Yes.
Like, why did you decide to leave all that behind to go back and build in Rwanda?
It happened very organically for me, really. I started coming 2016. I started coming to Rwanda. Fell in love immediately. I felt a vibrancy that I didn't feel in Sweden, I guess naturally. And I, at the same time, felt a pull. So a pull to come here, a pull to contribute. Everyone I'm meeting is really pushing and driving. The country is growing, the country is developing. There's a lot happening even at that time. And I've been in entrepreneurship. So this is the realization that hit me. I've been building businesses in Sweden and, applying myself to different ventures. Tech as of most recently for the past couple of years. And what dawned on me is if I'm to continue this journey and continue applying myself in this way, why wouldn't I do it here? Why wouldn't I do it in a place where, for one, there's a lot of momentum? I jokingly sometimes say you don't even need to be brilliant in this market. You just need to be here, be present, and have a good idea and a level of drive, and you can grow with the market. So that's one, the market, and you have giving back and being a part of the future in a different way. So this is what hit me, and I decided, actually it's already 2018 is when I started thinking, how can I make this happen? When, where, how? I'm running companies in Sweden, and I'm a little bit locked in. So it wasn't as much comfort that locked me in, which can be the trap for many people. It was rather obligations. But then it just happened to be that everything fell in place coming to 20 during 2023, right? Should be. And yeah, the summer there, I got the opportunity to move, and I took it directly. No questions, or it was a serendipitous timing, and uh, it was the right thing to do. I feel still to this day.
Can I just ask, like, what opportunity took you back?
What opportunity? The first opportunity when I moved here. So
Yes.
yes, I'd started, as I told you already. I started coming 2016. I started immediately. I identified the real estate market as a great opportunity. I'd done some studies on real estate and been involved in some smaller scale real estate in Sweden, in Stockholm, where I grew up. So looking at the market here, I saw so much more growth and leverage, basically. So that was one thing. So I kept, ideating and building the knowledge, my knowledge base, researching every time I came. I was looking at different areas, looking at different plots, acquiring plots, and in the preparation stage. But then the opportunity that I moved here with was there was an IT consultancy in Sweden, an IT consultancy company that had been a friend of mine ran that company. They grew quite big, and now they're looking to venture into different ventures. And he'd been trying to recruit me for the past couple of years. So I took the opportunity to present Rwanda as a great opportunity, and there's so much stats and facts that makes the continent an exciting opportunity. And we brainstormed, workshopped the business, and I came and launched that business. So I launched a IT consultancy, a sub branch for this company with
Mm.
talent. The idea was talent in Rwanda, clients in Sweden.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people with like tech background, they tend to just stick to the tech. But
Yeah.
you ventured into something that is not so common in tech, which is you go to real estate. Why didn't you stay in tech? And what was so appealing about real estate? Is it a return? Is it a returns? Is it? I don't know. I'm keen to. I love to learn.
Yeah, no, but real estate is one. I think real estate is exciting in all markets, but some markets you might live in, or visit, and you think, I should have been here 50, 100 years ago, and been a part of building this infrastructure that now stands here, and all the upside that has come with that.
Mhm.
So I've had those reflections in Sweden, and wherever I go, I look at how the place is growing, how the country is growing, how cities are growing, city planning. Wherever I go, this is something that I keep looking at. And here you have the same fact. So you have a country that is inevitably growing a lot. There's a high demand for real estate, and real estate is a good business if you can get in at the right time, right place, and in the right way. We have such a long track record of real estate being a good, stable business. And I feel like the choice, if I think that the choice between tech or not tech, or tech or real estate, is kind of a false dichotomy, where you don't have to choose. There will be tech involved in everything we're doing moving forward into the future. And also in terms of my split of time. When I first came here, the first year and a half, I was doing both, and that worked brilliantly. Because yeah, what the way I can go into a little bit the way I'm running the business here. So
Yeah.
basically, I've sourced the projects, I've built the concepts, done the market research, and developed the concept architecturally. I've taken it from conceptual ideas, worked with architects both locally and from Sweden. And then when it comes to the development, I have partners, financial partners that I'm working with from Sweden.
Mhm.
So basically, I'm sitting in between the Swedish market, and with knowledge and insight and access to the market here, and sitting in between the contractors that are actually doing the job and the development and the day-to-day operations. So I think that creates an opportunity for me where my time is not bound in 9 to 5 type of way, for example, and at the same time, I'm opening up an opportunity for my partners. They've
Mm-hmm.
invested in different markets. So they have experience. They've invested in Thailand, in the UK. They've invested in Sweden, and built real estate around the world. So they're quite familiar and experienced, and we've managed to build a trust. And I'm creating the opportunity for them to access this market, for
Mm.
one, at the same time as we're creating opportunities for the local workers and local contractors that we're working with. So that's my position. And with that position, it's all about, managing expectations and communication and making sure things move forward. But it's not as dependent on me, putting brick by brick necessarily.
I wouldn't expect that, but no, it's a very good description of the work that you do. I want to talk about real estate in Rwanda itself. What is it like? What are people investing in? What's the market? Is it what you expected when you're coming in versus what you actually got? Like, I'll just give us some high level insights. Any data would be super useful.
For sure, for sure. Now I've been in this market for a while. It's a couple of years now. I've been in this market, looking around and at this market. So I'll try to share something from most people's in this call's view as a fresh lens. So for one, we're currently in. So we have a big housing demand. We're currently in a process of developing and transitioning towards multi-unit apartments. So that's
Mm-hmm.
for one. Like, it's something I'm very used to in Sweden. I think that's how I've only lived there in apartment buildings. But this is something that the market is now transitioning towards. So just using an insight like that, okay, we have a country that's quite small in
Mm-hmm.
size. We have a population. When I first started coming in 2016, the population of Rwanda was, if I'm remembering correctly, like 9 or 10 million, and the population of Sweden was the same. I think it was nine, actually, 9 and 9. Sweden is today 10. Rwanda is today 14 million. So
Oh,
this
wow.
shows a clear, and it's been a very clear difference for me in these markets and how they're growing, and the demand. Of course, with this comes demand for all kinds of housing. You have affordable housing projects, government sponsored, that are making a
Mm-hmm.
big impact. And then you have a middle tier segment and a luxury segment. So what we're seeing primarily is kind of the sites where apartment buildings, which will be the most impactful type of building to build here, is happening kind of on two extremes, where you have the affordable housing side, which is, relocation projects,
Mm-hmm.
mostly, primarily, those types of dwellings. And it's happening on the luxury side. We have a lot of international people who are used to living in apartments, so a lot of these apartments are being built in the little bit more exclusive areas. I mean, around the golf course here,
Mm-hmm.
there's countless of these projects going on right now. But what we found interesting, so two ways we're tackling these things that I just mentioned that we identified. One, is our target. So we're seeing this gap in the middle. We might be middle, maybe a little bit more towards the high end segment, but not fully all the way there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, targeting the bulk of the market, actually, that
Okay.
people aren't targeting right now, and developing a concept that actually works for this population. So the reason this target might not have been as relevant for most developers here when we came is the culture. So there's a culture of wanting to have your house. You want to have your house and your garden.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
one thing that we have to work with. So, for example, let me describe the building. I think that might help the architectural design that we developed for our project here called Sunny Valley.
Mm.
So, we developed basically a townhouse type of structure. So, it's one building. We have multiple buildings, but if we take one building, it has two sides. So you can divide them into two sides. The one side on the bottom two floors is basically like a house. So it's 2 stories, 4 bedrooms. You have the garden with the parking, the annex in the back, and all of that. Maybe can share some visuals, might be more helpful. So the idea is you have what feels and is experienced like a house, like what the market is demanding. But then on the flip side, on the outside, you have a staircase leading up to a separate unit, which is a 2 bedroom, smaller apartment. So the idea is, let's say we have the Rwandan family, they can actually buy the building downstairs as if it was a house for themselves, and they could be renting the unit upstairs. And we've tested the
Mm.
renting with Airbnb, with long term rentals, so we know it actually works. So that's one way we could sell it, or you could buy both these sides and do renting on both of them. So we have a very flexible model that works for the local market, that works for international investors, that works for us if we want to keep a few units, which we've actually done and done some renting through. So this is the way we found, okay, the market is growing, yes, but where is it growing primarily?
I love this model, how you have figured out how to cater to locals, but also like everybody else. And I think it's very intentional to build that way. No, I love it so much. For my people, so the audience here are investors who care about returns and they want to get their money back. I wanted to ask, what are the returns like for you as an investor, having invested in a place like Rwanda? Now, you don't have to go into the details, but like at a very high level, and how do they even compare to a place like Sweden, for example?
Yes. So for one, of course, the barrier to entry is very different. I mean, building a project like this in Sweden, let me draw a comparison. Like mentally, I'm placing the area. At least your 5x even to start this type of project with the
Wow.
location that we have,
Mm.
for sure. Developing these types of units. So that's for one. Um, so you have a lower barrier of entry, while at the same time you have so much more leverage in time in terms of market growth. I mean,
Hmm.
the way the market is developing and costs. I mean, yeah, costs of finished units, purchase prices, and rental prices. There's much more of a room for growth there, basically.
Hmm.
So just to run some numbers, let's say, for example, our investment case. So we developed the buildings, and each building, as I said, is 4 apartment units. We sell them 2 by 2. So one side, as I describe it, 4 bedrooms, 2 stories down, and two
Yeah.
bedrooms up. One side like that is selling at 200,000 USD.
Wait, that's 6 rooms?
That's
So
six
four and
rooms.
two. Okay.
Yes, precisely.
Huh. Including the
So
land and everything?
yes, we exactly. We'll split the land and you get the whole thing.
Okay. All right.
Yes. And currently, and there's room to grow this, but our current rental rates are for these units. We're currently doing 1,200 for the down unit and 800 for the upper unit. And we definitely see there's space to increase that. Um, right now, we have 2 buildings in place, so 8 units. We're about to start the third building, which will make it 12 units. After that third building, we're developing our common areas. So we have a pool, we have a
Yeah.
playground, we have a barbecue and a gym. And with this, we see like now we have the full value of the area. And that's how we're seeing we can also increase the rental prices. But for now, as I mentioned, it's a $200,000 investment and $2,000 a month in rental
Yeah.
income. And of course, we do the full property management services. So there's a fee on top of that, plus some expenses. So roughly it comes down to around 9% yield right
Okay.
now for
That's very
investors.
neat. At least, I mean, I don't know which markets people are in, but I haven't seen 9% or even like a 12% gross return
Precise.
on an asset, especially in the West. But I'm keen to get people's thoughts and comments in the comments if you like what you're seeing, where you're based. That's quite impressive, and I like the fact that you've essentially been the architect behind making all these happen and making sure they're rented and now doing a lot more. Um, Again, doing business in, or we've heard that doing business in Africa is hard. Although my experience in Rwanda has been quite pleasant. Um, One question that I had, and somebody just asked it here, which is like, what are the legalities of owning land and property as a foreigner in Rwanda? But I want you to start with like, how easy or hard is it to essentially go through that process of owning anything in a place like
Mm.
Rwanda, especially as a foreigner?
Yes, so as a foreigner, there is some restrictions. There's a great strategy behind everything that's happening here. You might have heard some, seen some posts about the development and the great opportunities in Rwanda. But one thing, and all of that is led by great strategy. We're very
Mhm.
excited about what has led us here and how the future is looking. And a part of that is, of course, not selling out the country. So to not do that, there is some restrictions of how much land you can buy as a foreigner. If I'm remembering correctly, as a foreigner, you can buy one piece of land. That's one thing I know, and it's up to 600 something square meters.
Okay.
So that's as a private individual, you can buy and develop a house for yourself or, as an investment. But that's one restriction. But then when it comes to, for example, corporate entities with international partners, then now there is other opportunities to work differently.
Okay. Talking about land, uh, are there a lot of land disputes in Rwanda? Is that a thing
Look,
at all? Like, is there? I know there's a lot of technology around like land titles in Rwanda. It's probably one of the very few
precise.
countries that have done a really good work. Can you shed a bit more light on that?
A rigorous work has been done around that. I haven't bumped into any types of land disputes, especially myself, but also secondhand. Haven't heard of anything like that directly, actually. What we tried, we before investing and focusing in on Rwanda, I also have a connection to Uganda. A lot of my family is there on my mother's side, and we had issues there. So that created some initial hesitancy, but I've looked into it more, and it's so fascinating that the Swedish um, agency for land division and land title was actually involved in creating Rwanda's. Yeah, they're on the website. You see like the Swedish logotype. Um, so, and this was done quite a while ago, and
Mhm.
this system works. It works in Kigali. I've tried it outside of Kigali, so it's very clear. And what also is great about this country is they've mapped everything into a master plan. So you can
Mm.
see the usage. You can go online. I actually have one for Burera and Northern District. I have a tab here for it. And you can see the plan. You can see this is agricultural land. This is land for different zonings. And you can plan and invest accordingly,
That's
falling
quite
into the
impressive.
box.
We
It
saw,
is. It makes it
I think we
easier.
posted a video online on our Diaspora House page, which is somebody talking about it took them 6 hours to set up a company in Rwanda. Is that the
Yes.
reality on the ground?
Yes, it is.
I love it.
It for sure is. It's super easy setting up companies. I've done it a few times now. I've done it myself. I've done it through an agent, which makes it even more ridiculous. I can give you a guy's number, and like, it's not hard. The online portal works easily, and you can do all of that. Or you can sit in this guy's office for 15 minutes, give him all the details, just ask you a few questions, and by the time you're out of the office in your car, it's up and running basically.
You're really selling this. I like it. It's pretty cool.
I'm sharing my experience.
Now, I mean, it can't be all that rosy, right? What are the challenges that you've encountered doing business, especially within the real estate space in Rwanda?
Yeah, for sure. There's been challenges. For one, I just simply in the construction process, at one point, I realized it was a strategic decision to fire our previous contractor and get a new one, uh, just based on experience primarily of this type of scale of project. And we wanted to get even more scaling effects as we're growing the project. Ultimately, in the best case, we're looking to developed 7 buildings, 7 of these similar buildings, which is 28 units. And our first partner just wasn't up to the challenge, and there was some communicative challenges and some differences in ways of working, and that ties into another big challenge that we have had when it comes to the local market and sales locally. We don't really have a sales culture here, I've noticed, in
Mm.
Rwanda. So I think there will be a lot of space for driven brothers from our neighboring countries or a little bit further to come and really, take over in terms of sell and that type of ambition. But trying to work with brokers or real estate agents here has been a challenge where we haven't been able to find a good partner that can communicate our project and the ambition of the project. So that's currently something that I'm working on right now, where we have to set that up ourselves. So we're currently looking to set up our own internal sales processes, which then I painted a rosy picture of, not having to do too much myself. That's not really the truth, but, working with local partners for each person to do what they're best at. But this is an area where we've looked around, and we see there is unfortunately a lack right now. And then we try to resolve that. I mean, having been in the tech scene and entrepreneurship, you have to find solutions. You find ways forward.
No, I think I'm glad that you highlighted the challenges because, like, it's not that straightforward. But I think that the challenges that you highlighted are not very unique to Rwanda, right? Firing, construction folks, or that happened. And also, well, maybe in West Africa we have heavy sales culture, but in East Africa, I
Yeah.
think it's much slower. It's more subtle. So I don't
Yes.
think it's specific to Rwanda
For
as
sure.
as a
And
whole.
and I haven't been myself to West Africa, but I meet a lot of brothers and sisters from there, and I notice, some differences. But I really see an East Africa, like you're saying. I've moved around a little bit in East Africa, and it's more low key. But I see opportunities with this,
Yeah.
because inevitably there will be a market here, and things will need to be sold, or whatever specific opportunity you're identifying.
Mhm.
And I think it's a great time to position yourself to resolve these challenges that exist.
Amazing. I think we're nearly at time. 30 minutes. Again, we we messed up the time, so my sincere apologies. Innocent, before I leave you, we had a couple of questions in the chat. The first one that you've already answered. The second one is around the yield clarification, which both the 9% yield is net of fees, and then Bo mentioned something about around Swedish-based investors might have a lower cost of capital than most, which is true.
Sorry,
And
one
then
more time. I missed that part. I might have a
so mention
lower.
lower lower cost of capital. I think that's not just beyond
Mm,
the beyond the like across Europe, the cost, central ECB rates are very low. So I think cost of capital is very low. Somebody asked, are you a developer? Are you a REIT? Are you both?
Yes, that's actually a brilliant question, and something that I definitely should be highlighting. So as you see, our name is great, and it is a play on rate. The structure, the investment tool, that the real estate investment trust is normally what a rate stands for. But we are a grounded real estate investment tribe. So we are, to begin with, we are developers, but then we're setting up our company structure to allow for multiple investors, similar to a rate, but not limited to the structure of a rate. So therefore, the play with great and rate. We're not a real estate investment trust, but in similar way, we want to open up the opportunity to invest in our projects.
Okay, that's very useful. And then, Bo also wanted to know, are you promoting anything right now? I will leave that to the end because I know you're doing a lot of stuff, and then we can talk
Sure.
about like what's next, what you're working on, how can people get involved. Esther, I hope you don't mind. I will skip the political question, but like I think the question is always around like, investing in Africa. There's political involvement, but I don't think it's unique to Rwanda. It's anywhere you go. But I am intentionally skipping your question, if you don't mind, Esther. And then the last question here is: are all these opportunities only in Rwanda, or only in Kigali, or specific areas?
Yes, also a very good question. No, the whole country is growing. To answer simply, the whole country is growing. There's a lot of opportunity. Most opportunities will be found in the capital, of course, Kigali. But we have projects, as I mentioned, in the northern district, and there is a new airport being built, a big international airport in Rwanda's attempt to become a hub in Africa. We're developing this new airport in Bugesera International Airport. So around this area, there's a lot of opportunities. This is something that actually is pressing me to do even more research and visit there and try to lock in our strategy for this area. So there is different opportunities around the country. Even for vacation stays, we have a few projects related to vacation stays near Kigali, outside Kigali. So yeah, because tourism, entertainment, visit Rwanda is maybe what most people are familiar with. So there's multiple sectors for one to play with, and we are doing real estate, but that touches into for us vacation type of stays and concepts, health concepts. We have a place in the city where we're trying to build a health hub, but that's maybe for another conversation.
Awesome. As you know, the last question wasn't the last question. This is the last question. And Jefferson, who's actually based in Kigali,
Yes.
he wants to know, don't you think that upper mid market to luxury apartment market is oversupplied and destined for a bubble? Do you have any
Yes,
thoughts
it's a
on that?
brilliant observation, Jefferson, and that's kind of what I mentioned as well. What's being developed right now is on the affordable housing side primarily, and then you have a lot of projects happening in the luxury segment. And I really highlighted the area I was talking about, Jefferson, is Nyaratarama, for example, or Kimihurura. Sorry for everyone who's just hearing words right now. But for example, you have these areas in town, Kiyovu, where you have to wonder how these apartments, how the projects are going to sustain over time. And these are also not cheap apartments. Rent here sometimes in these apartments in these locations equates London, equates Stockholm. Absolutely,
Wow.
Stockholm, I know. London might be a stretch, but I'm observing what's happening on that side, and that's also why we have focused on not placing ourselves in this segment. We're somewhere in the middle, a little bit more right now towards that segment, but as the market develops, as the percentage of the middle class develops, I think we'll be placed smack in the middle.
Amazing. And what are you working on right now? How can people, learn more? How can they
Yeah,
get involved with you? Do you want to share anything? I know you're busy, so like, how can people stay in touch and any projects you want to share with the community?
sure. Right now, we're primarily focused, and I mentioned the whole great thing, and we're primarily focused on a project in Sunny Valley. This is in Busanza. It's about 20 minutes from town. It's a great developing area, new road, not too much traffic on the way. And we really believe in this area. It's near the current airport as well. So here we have this project called Sunny Valley. We've finished the first building, it's fully occupied with tenants. We decided to keep that building for the past year, getting our return on rental income. We're open to the idea of selling the building, to accelerate our development. As I said, there could be 7 buildings for this whole project. But we have just now finished the second building. We're in the finishing stage, moving into sales. And that, as I described, can be investors. It can be a pool of investors looking to get the rental return, which we are getting on the first building. It could be someone buying. So I'm currently in a stage where we are taking in interest and showing the different opportunities. There's also opportunities to be involved in future buildings, buying off plan, and this is not really off plan in the same way because we have existing buildings with a staggered payment structure. So there's a lot of opportunities to be involved and learn more about the market here.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions for us? Usually, it's just me sending you questions, but
Yeah.
questions for me, questions for the community. We have, I think, like 20 people on the call. Any questions
Yes,
for people here?
I would like to shoot a question to the community. While I'm thinking of that question, I can shoot a question to you first.
Yes, let's
You
do it.
mentioned this project in your first in Kenya, and we've spoken a little bit about it a while back. What's the update on that, and how are things going? What have you learned so far? And yeah,
Well, let me start with what I've learned. Property management is a pain in the backside, especially when you're not on the ground. We've also learned that like one bedrooms, at least for the audience that we're targeting, works better than 2 bedrooms from a return
okay,
perspective.
yeah,
We are working on paying out the first returns to investors, which is very nice. And we think that
congrats.
that will also just help more people know that this thing is actually real.
Yes,
The audience that we've dealt with historically have been, tech investors. So like many of them are not used, like the returns will come, but they're not rushing for it. Where we want to get to is while we started with annual returns, we want to move to maybe like monthly or quarterly. And that's
I
actually a lot of
wanted
the
to
work
ask
that I'm
that.
doing with building technology.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that in
Yeah, so
what
that
intervals are you doing the returns?
so
It's
right now
been
it's
yearly
annually,
support.
but
Yeah,
we want yes, but we want to move to monthly or quarterly. And all that part with technology that I've been building for like the past 3 years, more or less.
yeah, yeah.
And we think that as we build the systems around frequent payment, more and more people will get into the asset class because they know that or they know what's coming at the end of the month or at the
Yes.
end of the quarter. We want to do more, but one thing that we want to do as learning is when we go to a new city or a new country, we need somebody on the ground.
Yes.
And so when we decide to go to Rwanda, at least now we know you. One of our members just moved to Cape Town. So now we have somebody on the ground there. And ultimately, the goal is to build a network of real estate assets owned by the diaspora across the continent, so that when we're moving around, it's like we have a place to stay. And if we can stay there, it's rented the way yours are rented for returns that we can get back regardless of where we're in the world. So yeah.
Spot on. It's so exciting. It's really exciting times, and focused here, but there's a lot of opportunities on the continent. Maybe that's another question, or one question I have for the group is, what markets are we familiar with, and how has what you've heard in this conversation maybe compared to that, and what's the sense we're getting, pooling the knowledge of this potentially diverse group?
Folks, you can just unmute yourself if you want, put on your camera, and you can answer the question. I don't know, Tandeka, if you want to add, because Tandeka has done stuff in South Africa.
Yeah.
So any insights would be super useful.
Maybe I can just share mine. Oh, Tandeka, you can go ahead. I thought you were quiet.
Now I'm going to speak from like my insights. One thing is that markets are different. One thing I've learned, because I've also got property investments in South Africa, on top of Diaspora House, is that location is quite important. Location is really something that is big. And I think, just to reiterate what Joey indicated with Kenya, I think the smaller scale buildings or apartments, 1 beds versus 3 beds or 4 beds, is what I've seen people gravitate towards with, and what works from a financial or a return perspective as well. Also because it's lower cost, but it's more popular, so it allows the occupancy there to be much better than what you would get for a 2-bedroom. On my side, that's what I can share from my observations, looking at what we've done in Kenya, Nairobi, and also what I know from South Africa, Johannesburg, where my properties are located.
Yeah. It's a very interesting observation that you both have raised with a 1-bedroom situation, where and you mentioned markets are very different, where we really don't have, unless it's the luxury segment where you have international buyers or renters. Otherwise, people live at home until men and women live at home until they're married, and then now they actually want the house. So it's a big difference here, where we don't have the local, at least, occupancy in the same way for the 1-bedroom apartments. Just a commentary on that, just to highlight the interesting nuances and differences in different markets. I could see it in did you say Cape Town?
No, in Johannesburg. We're still looking in Cape Town.
Okay.
The ones that I have are in Johannesburg, and
I've been to,
that's what.
and I think there working.
Yeah, and I would think maybe also Cape Town is what would work best also.
Awesome. I think Esther had a comment.
Yeah, it's just thoughts. It's not structured, but basically we're seeing the same trend as well, like in Kenya, where studios seem to be having, more ROI, like the low income, if I may use that word, the low income units. However, the challenge with that sometimes is chasing after rent. Sometimes you find yourself, you have to fight these people to pay you. So again, you'd have to really ask yourself if that is something you want to give yourself that headache. I think a good solution could be hiring a trustworthy property management company, which I have not heard of one, and I think there's an opportunity there for somebody to literally actually start like a money collection agency, or however you want to call it. For this, you fight, but me, you give me my money. I'll pay you. I'm happy to pay you 10%. Go fight with those people on my behalf.
For the freedom.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us, cost of construction has really increased with our new president. So it can even affect the mathematics of your ROI. Things used to be much better before this president. And I know we can always be in a perpetual sequence of hating on president, one after the other. But I don't know. This one is he's tough on us in Kenya. Yeah, and then just to compare between, I guess, Africa and Ireland, I bought a property in Ireland. I'm a landlord here. What has been interesting to observe is how tax can really take away the advantage of, so I was excited to invest in Ireland because, if you get a really good tenant, they pay you rent, you're not worried, you're not fighting. It's people who have jobs. So you're thinking this is much better than Africa, where things can be a little bit hectic. But then again, the Irish government will tax you 52% of your rental income. If you have obviously a high income job. So you can imagine, like, why am I even a landlord? I
Is
don't
that
know why I'm a landlord, guys. Actually, I don't know. So yeah, so those are so that's the benefit as well in Africa. Tax is low. You can, it's super low. So
just curious
yes.
on the nuance side? You said they tax you higher if you have a high income. Uh,
Yes.
is that even if you run it through a company, or is that if you own it as a private individual? Just
So those are
to
the things I'm trying to find out, to be honest with you,
okay.
right? Like, again, it was a blind spot on my part. I was thinking, yay, I'm gonna get taxed 12.5%. Like, because
Mm.
I thought, I don't know, for some reason I lied to myself
Mhm.
that rental income would be seen as, you're having a business. And then I didn't know that they add it into your gross salary and then it's taxed, you know. Still no regrets, you can never know. You never know everything, it's just work in progress. So
That,
anyway, those are some of the things I need to find out. Like, do you need to have bought that house when you have registered the company? I don't know if
mm.
I can go, and I'm actually meeting my accountant on Monday next week too. And these are some of the questions I want to ask. How can I reduce basically how much tax I pay to the government?
For sure. Good luck with that. For sure.
Quick
Yeah.
question. May I ask just a quick clarification reflection. Sorry guys, my name is Bumi and I'm based in Washington DC. It's my first time actually on one of these calls. And Joe, I like how you describe the platform for essentially diaspora being able to show up anywhere on the continent. I have a sort of mentor who owns 22 properties across the continent, and most of them are one beds. And so one of the things he had said to me is try to keep the yields somewhere between 8 and 12%. So after taxes, etc., etc. I mean, I think most of his are in I think South Africa. But now, in my journey, what I've noticed, whether it's Nairobi or Accra, or the developer matters a lot, right? And so that's where, like you set yourself apart as a trusted developer who's able to, I mean, of course, not just build and deliver, but to your point, Innocent, assess a strategy, right, connected to an area, and then follow through over the longer term. So the question around, so for one, very interested in the platform and the platform idea. But then the second thing is, what does Rwanda itself, or what's Rwanda going to stand out about, ultimately? So if Kenya has this, Nairobi has this proliferation of, unfortunately, Chinese built companies, there's so many of them, and they are ever cheaper, and to Esther's point, the tax is ever higher, and so some people's yields are like 4%, which I don't even know why you are doing that. And then the holding time apparently needs to be about 4 to 5 years, because the appreciation is not going to be anything significant. And then if you have any constipation with the word isn't constipation, but you know what I mean, like if they stop your money flow in any way, maybe the rent isn't going or whatever, the whole thing is a mess, and then getting out of it then becomes this issue. So I think there's a broader question around what should Rwanda reflect in that entire ecosystem, if there is Uganda there, and Nairobi and Kenya and Tanzania. What, for the 100 million or something people in that region, how does Rwanda actually truly stand out? And how can that inform the types of investment decisions that we make? I only asked that because last year in August, me and my friend, we went up to Musanze, and looked at a bunch of like land properties there, just looking, and that key question of what do you do here kept coming up. But I think with the intelligence of people on the ground like you, or even like a platform like this, it's a little bit easier for diaspora people to have this bird's eye view as well as this on the ground view of like what makes sense. Yeah. But thanks. Just quick reflections that I hope are helpful.
Very good. I like that a lot. And exciting that you were in Musanze visiting. My plot that I mentioned is Burera, which is kind of the other side of the lakes. So it's about an hour going around the lakes. So I'm also interested in that area. And to your question, where will Rwanda stick out? I think, not to take too much time here, but I think the multi-pronged strategy that's going on with the entertainment, the tourism. Musanze is popular for the volcanoes and the gorilla trekking, and there's more exciting things happening there. And with that, a lot of opportunities will come. You have ecotourism. Uh, a lot is happening outside of Kigali as well, tied to this. So that's one thing that I'm excited about. That there is a strategy. The strategy has been executed for the past 30 years and with good kind of return on that. And we're hoping to continue on a path similar to that. And we can easily access insights to this multi-pronged strategy and place ourselves. Joe, you were talking about or even writing about your new thesis around culture and investing in that. And that's a part of the strategy for Rwanda at large. I'm in real estate, but that's very relevant for me in terms of, okay, we're hosting these events in sports, in entertainment, global citizen, UCI, cycling events. Okay, there most likely will be Airbnb guests, for example. So that's one side, and we could go into that a lot, but just to focus in on one small bit that I find very exciting for myself, like how does Rwanda stick out? You mentioned Uganda, we've talked about Nairobi and other markets. For me, the ease of doing business, which is one of those terms that you hear as a term, and something that's promoted, but I've really felt that coming from a market born and raised in Sweden. Super easy to do business there, straightforward. It's very similar here. And I think this can be an attractor for people like myself, for people from even further away distance to Rwanda, that things actually work here and it's straightforward, doing business. I'm not saying everything works perfectly, but a lot of things work as they should.
That's very, very useful. Bumi, I also wanted to add that like what we're trying to achieve with Diaspora House is with the future properties that we own and manage, I think that we can essentially beat market returns by leveraging community. So one thing that we noticed last year was about 50% of our bookings actually came from the community, which is very unusual because everybody's reliant on Booking and Airbnb, etc. But we actually have people who just DM in the WhatsApp group. You're like, hey guys, I'm going to Nairobi. Can I book this? And we send you an invoice, you pay, and that's it, right? It also turns out that a lot of these guests are the easier one to manage because they either own a co-owner or they understand what's happening. So we want to actually grow the community so that we can even get more community bookings, and hopefully as we grow the number of assets that that the community owns across cities. Now, you can connect with people and, more do things together, etc, etc, etc. So that's the piece I wanted to add. Innocent, I'm sorry, we've been here for nearly an hour holding people
can
for.
I just quickly add in just to maybe the Rwanda case, right? As a person who's actually so I bought a property, like just my own house, about maybe 4 years ago, and I think it's doubled since. So maybe that's just my own property. But beyond that, I think the case Rwanda is, besides the obvious macro tailwinds, all these infrastructure tailwinds, there's this huge influx of institutionalization as it relates to the property market, to the real estate markets, that I think is just causing this huge lift that's going to keep growing, right? And, as Innocent said, the ease of business, right? So that inertia that you'd find in other markets is something that you wouldn't find as much in Rwanda. And so I feel like, because I grew up in Nairobi, right? I feel like Rwanda is, or Kigali rather, is Nairobi in maybe around 2005, right? Where we just had a new president, Kibaki, and there's this huge leverage point where things are slowly starting to take off. And so I think that's just really the case. And this is just from somebody who's on the ground, a person who walks a lot. I mean, I walk every day. I mean, Innocent will probably tell you this. You walk on the street this week. Next week you walk on that street, there's a new building, right? And it keeps growing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of like cataclysmic forces that are gonna make the real estate market very lucrative.
For sure.
Thank you, Jefferson. I love how Rwandese people are always rooting and selling Rwanda. You guys are the real salespeople, for real, for real.
This was a conversion though, from Nairobi to Rwanda, so it seems less biased.
No, yes. But listen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for everybody who joined the call. Thank you for your patience, for the delay and everything, but I'm glad that you all stayed. Many of you have actually stayed. And I really, really hope that you got something out of this. As part of the work that we want to do at Diaspora House is education. And I hope you are walking away from this session knowing more about Rwanda. So thank you all so much. And Innocent, how can people stay in touch with you? Can you share your contacts? We'll also share it in the follow-up email, but if you have anything you want to share with the community, this is your chance.
Sure. Thank you very much for this conversation. It's been very fun to participate in myself. I think the easiest way to find me, you're currently seeing my name spelled out on the screen. So you can find Innocent Mugenga on LinkedIn. And let's start by connecting there, and we can move on to whatever platform from there. I think that's easiest.
Fantastic. And on that note, Innocent, I will leave you to enjoy your Friday evening. I'll be back in touch. Do you, with your permission, can I share some of the projects that you've worked on before?
For sure. For sure.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll share it with folks to have a look. If folks are interested, we can figure out how to hopefully join you on the journey of building out Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale?
Sunny Valley.
Sunny Valley, right?
Sunny Valley, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well,
and I hope people come and visit as well. Take it from stats and figures and information to an actual experience and see it for yourself.
Fantastic. Well, folks, you know what to do. Thank you so much for joining us, Innocent.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Yeah. All right, folks, if you can stay with me for just like 2 minutes, I just want to run through exactly what we do here. Diaspora House. It's a co-investment collective where we come together to invest in real estate across the continent. We now own 2 properties. We want to increase it. And yeah, you can, stay, you can own, and you can belong to our vibrant community. If you're not part of our Slack WhatsApp community, please do so. We'll send a link in the follow-up email so they can join the community. We run the investment part of the collective on Borderless. And also we'll send the link where, as we have a couple of properties coming up, they'll be listed on Borderless where you can go and co-invest and. On that note, thank you all so much for joining this fantastic session. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week ahead.
Thanks, Joey. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.